fourth generation version of Skoda's Octavia gets a light refresh as part of this 𝗙 model's mid-term update. Once, this car was the least sophisticated of all the Volkswagen Group's family hatchback products. Not anymore, thanks to mild hybrid electrified engine tech and cutting-edge media cabin provision. This car's still bigger and better value than most of its rivals, pretty much a Passat-sized medium-range model for the price of a Golf-sized one, and it's clever enough, once again, to change the way you think about Skoda.
You can trace the Skoda success story of the last few decades back to the original launch of one model, this one, the Octavia. This fourth generation model first arrived back in 2020 and 4 years on was usefully updated to create the car we're going to look at here. Right from its very first appearance in 1996, the Octavia has been a car that's always supersized its value proposition, offering more space than the class norm. For the first generation model and its Mark II successor of 2004, that class saw competition amongst Focus and Astra class family hatches. The Mark III model of 2012 took a step up in the world, virtually big enough to compete with medium-sized models in the next class up. And this fourth generation NX series version has continued to offer that kind of proposition. In this updated form, launched in mid-2024, the Mark IV Octavia has become more sophisticated than ever before, and cleverer too, as it has to be to distance itself from the simpler but not much smaller Scala model that sits below it in the range. The Scala is the car to choose for Skoda motoring as it used to be, light on frills and cutting-edge technology, but solid, reliable, value-laden and built to last. This improved Octavia, in contrast, is more a signpost to a direction the 𝗙 brand wants to go in the future, one that shares the very latest technology with more luxurious brands in the Volkswagen Group stable. How long it will continue to survive in the 𝗙 manufacturer's range alongside fully electric models like the Elroq and the Enyaq remains to be seen. If you're not quite yet ready for one of those kinds of EVs, then an Octavia still needs to be high on your family hatch shopping list. To find out why, as usual, you're going to need the industry's most comprehensive review, the car and driving road test. Not much has changed in terms of the engineering of this fourth generation Octavia. Like its predecessors, this Skoda remains a family hatch segment contender, very much targeted at the pragmatic family motorist. They value comfort, reassuring handling, refinement and quality, and they'd be mildly surprised by the notion that a car of this kind should offer anything more. It isn't as sharp to throw around as something in this class like, say, a Peugeot 308, but then why would it need to be? It is perhaps with that in mind that the German development team who originally created this NX-era Octavia design felt able to be equally pragmatic when it came to issues of suspension setup. A sophisticated multi-link rear suspension package was developed for this car, but as with the Volkswagen Golf and Seat Leon models that share this car's MQB platform engineering, hardly any Octavia variants feature it, fitted instead with a torsion beam arrangement that's cheaper to make and assemble. Fortunately, it's tuned for softness, so ride quality is quite acceptable even with the big 18-inch rims we've got fitted here. As we said, the changes made to the engine range are minimal. As before, the core of the range is made up of turbocharged 4-cylinder 1.5-litre TSI petrol or 2-litre TDI diesel engines, each with either 116 PS or 150 PS options. If you prefer petrol, Skoda would ideally like you to have your Octavia with the brand's E-Tech MHEV mild hybrid electrification, which requires use of DSG auto transmission, and that's what we're trying here. If you still want a petrol manual, an unelectrified 1.5-litre 150 PS green pump fuel powertrain's still available. When it comes to the 2-litre TDI diesel, well, it's a straight choice between the 116 PS version with manual transmission or the 2-litre TDI 150 PS drivetrain which has to be had with the DSG Auto. As for other Octavia engine options, well, the previous entry-level 1-litre petrol engines no longer offered, and from the launch of this updated model, there was no sign of the PHEV petrol drivetrain either, though we'd bet on seeing that before the end of this car's life cycle. Another engine deleted as part of this model update was the uprated version of the 2-litre TDI diesel, previously used by a version of the sporty VRS. VRS customers do now, though, get an upgraded version of the 2-litre TSI petrol unit, now with power boosted to 265 PS, along with a sports exhaust that produces a more characterful sound. As previously, the VRS is the only Octavia variant that gets the more advanced multi-link rear suspension system we referenced earlier, and sits 15mm lower than the standard model on firmer sports suspension. It can't now be had with all-wheel drive though. Actually, all-wheel drive, once something of an Octavia calling card, is generally noticeable by its absence across the entire range, though other markets get an all-wheel drive 2-litre TSI petrol variant with 204 PS. Whatever flavour of Octavia you happen to prefer, it'll come with plenty of drive assist technology, including a standard adaptive cruise control system that uses the car's front camera system, GPS data, and a host of sensors to drive the car predictively. So when ACC is set, the car knows in advance about bends, roundabouts and upcoming traffic flow. Plus, this Skoda will adapt itself to speed limits as you enter them. A more advanced Octavia then. Though you might just feel as we do that when you get right down to it, the character of this car is very much the same as it's always been. You'd have to be quite a Skoda loyalist to notice the visual changes made to the updated version of this 4th generation Octavia. A subtly revised front grille is flanked by more angular restyled LED headlamps, positioned above a pronounced crease in the front bumper that's supposed to present a visual reference to the Czech flag. Both front and rear bumpers have been revised as well to be more aerodynamic, which is the main reason why overall length of both hatch and estate models is up by 9mm, creating an even longer 4,698mm body length for this hatch version. It's 4,705 for the alternative estate. We say even longer because the Octavia has always been a considerably more lengthy thing than the family hatch segment cars it's traditionally been priced against. A Volkswagen Golf, for instance, measures in at 4,284mm. Quite a difference. Wheel sizes range between 17 and 19 inches, and as part of this update, all the rims have been redesigned. Also redesigned are these rear LED lamp clusters. What hasn't changed though is what you can't see, the supremely flexible MQB modular transverse matrix chassis that was introduced with this model's predecessor, and which has underpinned countless Volkswagen Group models since the Mark 7 model Golf first introduced it back in 2012. Time to take a look inside, and as ever, there's that typically Skoda touch, an umbrella built into the door. Once you get behind the wheel, you'll find the changes made in this updated Mark 4 model are as subtle as they were outside. If you happen to be familiar with the original version of this NX era design, the main thing you'll probably notice is the new larger 13-inch central screen, before perhaps going on to note the new recycled cabin materials and the steering wheel's smarter two-dimensional Skoda badge. There are cabin charging upgrades too. The phone box wireless charging mat now provides for up to 15-watt wireless charging, and the USB-C ports deliver up to 45 watts, triple the amount offered with the pre-facelifted car. The virtual cockpit digital instrument screen has now been standardised in its largest 10.25-inch size, and as before, can display in a choice of 4 graphic layouts that include twin dials and full screen mapping. Whatever your choice of instrument screen layout, customisable data boxes are provided to the left and right. You can choose for these to display info on audio settings, drive assistance features, a compass, consumption info, driving time, average speed, navigation or coolant temperature. As for this bigger 13-inch central touchscreen, well, the key change, apart from the size, is that it now incorporates ChatGPT artificial intelligence, which means that if you use the LoRa voice control system to ask it something it doesn't know, it'll go online to find the answer, then return it to you via the voice control. The built-in SmartLink system now offers wireless activation for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And as before, there's navigation, an 8-speaker audio setup, and over-the-air updates. Enough with screens and digitalisation. What else do you need to know here? Well, maybe that the seats, which come with lumbar adjustment, are brilliantly supportive, and that apart from a few minor impediments to all-round vision, the ergonomics are pretty faultless. There's loads of space to stow things as well, a big air-conditioned glove box, large flock-lined door bins, which can each hold a 1.5-litre water bottle. Plus, you get a lidded bin between the seats, which doesn't have any media ports, but does have a neat ratcheting top to rest your elbow on. A sliding cover shields these central cup holders, which incorporate clasps, so you can undo a bottle top with one hand. Plus, there's a big bin in front of the gear lever that can also be cooled, and which has a couple of USB ports, though they're of the USB-C variety, so you may have to use an unsightly adapter. There's also a ticket clip in the driver's sun visor, and another on the right-hand A-pillar, plus a coin tray next to the electronic handbrake. And Skoda's also remembered to incorporate an overhead sunglasses compartment. Time to take a look in the rear. Where, as usual, with an Octavia, backseat space is class-leading, thanks to this car's unusually long 2,686mm wheelbase. That's 67mm lengthier than a Volkswagen Golf. As a result, it's more spacious back here than any other family hatch segment model, at least for legs and knees anyway. This Skoda is a touch wider than the segment norm as well, so it'll be a little easier to take 3 adults back here, though the people concerned will still need to be on pretty friendly terms, and the middle occupant's leg space will be somewhat compromised by this quite prominent centre transmission tunnel. There are centre air vents below which you'll find a small storage tray above a couple of further USB-C ports. Isofix child seat fastenings feature, of course, for the outer 2 seats, while the fold-out centre armrest incorporates cup holders, though unfortunately these are so small that only very tiny bottles and cans would fit. Still, these neat smartphone pouches in the seat back pockets are standard across the range, and you get flock-lined door bins roomy enough to hold a 1-litre drinks bottle. An extra storage box is now available for rear seat passengers. Right, let's finish with a look at boot capacity, pausing as we do to note that an ice scraper is still incorporated into the fuel filler cap. Cargo space remains class leading, though you'll only get this powered tailgate to access it if you avoid base trim. Once the hatch rises, 600 litres of space is revealed in the hatch. It'll be 640 litres in the estate. For the hatch body shape, that's getting on for twice as much boot space as you get in a comparably priced family hatch of this kind. That Volkswagen Golf, for instance, we mentioned earlier, offers just 380 litres. This is a practical space too. There are a pair of pull-out hooks, 2 corner compartments with slide-out panels, with a built-in strap on the right-hand side and a 12-volt socket on the left. This central hatch enables lengthier items like skis to be accommodated without disturbing a pair of rear seat occupants. There'd be more room beneath the cargo floor if, very unwisely, you fail to take up the extra cost option of adding in some kind of spare wheel. If you need more room, then you'll want to activate these cargo sidewall catches. Once the 60-40 split rear bench is folded, there's quite a step up from the boot floor. The provision of an adjustable height boot floor would have eradicated this. Even where you've got that on the estate model, the way the seats fold means that the load floor isn't quite flat. Still, just look at all the space you do get. 1,555 litres in this hatch, a figure that would rise to 1,700 in the estate, which equals what you get in a large segment estate like BMW's 5 Series Touring. Nothing in the Octavia sector can even approach that. Let's take a closer look at the Octavia lineup. The core trim level is SE technology, and as we filmed in early 2025, pricing was starting from around £27,000. The mid-trim level is SEL, then the Sportline version that we've got here, with the top of the range marked by the sporty VRS models. Whichever trim level you opt for, as usual, there's a premium of £1,000 if you want the estate rather than the 5-door hatch. As ever with an Octavia, that's very competitive pricing. Family hatchback rivals like, say, Volkswagen's Golf, Vauxhall's Astra, Peugeot's 308 or the Ford Focus, the latter still on sale at the time of our test. Well, all of these start from around the same kind of level, but are vastly less spacious for either people or packages. It's that extra space you might be minded to pay a bit extra for, even if you're looking at cheaper family hatches like the Hyundai i30, the Kia Ceed, or another VW Group product that shares this Skoda's MQB engineering, Seat's Leon. If, having considered all of that, it's an Octavia you really want, then you're going to need to know how generous Skoda's been with the standard spec. So let's take a look at that now. Base SE technology gives you most of what you really need, so 16-inch alloy wheels, LED headlights, LED tail lamps, power folding mirrors, all-round parking sensors and cruise control with a speed limiter. Plus, there are the usual Skoda simply clever touches like the umbrella in the door and an ice scraper built into the fuel filler flap, both of which have made the switch to sustainable materials. Inside, there's a virtual cockpit, 10.25-inch digital instrument display, dual zone air conditioning, heated front seats, a 15-watt wireless phone charger, and driver's seat lumbar support. Infotainment is dealt with by a 13-inch central touchscreen display with navigation, voice control and Skoda's wireless SmartLink connection via Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. This monitor also now incorporates a built-in ChatGPT version of Skoda's LoRa voice control system, named after one of Skoda's founders, Václav Lorin. So if you ask it something it doesn't know, it'll search the World Wide Web for the answer. Upgrade to mid-level SEL model and you get 17-inch wheels, rear privacy glass, predictive adaptive cruise control with traffic jam assist, a power-operated tailgate with virtual pedal swipe control, a heated front windscreen, boot netting, nicer micro-suede and faux leather upholstery, and for the estate version, an electric sliding parcel shelf and a variable height boot floor. SEL spec also gets you a now improved keyless entry system with proximity sensors that now automatically lock or unlock the car as you approach or walk away from it. This more dynamic-looking Sportline variant further builds on that tally with 18-inch wheels, metallic paint, a gloss black spoiler, gloss black roof rails, chromed exhaust tailpipes, progressive dynamic steering, a sport steering wheel, sport seats and upholstery in fabric and artificial leather. Finally, there's top VRS trim, which gets you 19-inch wheels, full LED matrix headlights, VRS suspension that's lowered by 15mm, an electronically controlled limited slip differential for extra cornering traction, specific VRS bumpers and black tailpipes. Inside, there's special VRS design selection upholstery with carbon effect decorative inserts. Across the range, there's loads of safety kit, of course. The brand's front assist collision avoidance assistance autonomous braking system is standard across the lineup, along with lane assist, lane departure warning, a turn assist system to help you at junctions, and predictive cruise control, which works alongside the traffic sign recognition setup. The usual suite of airbags includes a driver's knee bag, and is linked to the usual e-call system, and Skoda's also updated the car's attention and drowsiness assistant. If you avoid base trim, you get a lane assist plus setup with narrow lane assist and newly added urban evasive steering support. The blind spot detection system that's standard on the top VRS version can be added further down the range at extra cost. The efficiency figures are much as before, though Skoda claims that the volume 1.5 litre TSI petrol engine's turbocharger has been reworked to improve economy and minimise thermal loss. As before, the MHEV mild hybrid system that's fitted to 1.5 litre TSI auto models doesn't make a huge frugality difference. To recap, it pairs a 12-volt belt-driven starter motor with a small 48-volt lithium-ion battery which stores energy that's recuperated under braking. The setup assists the petrol engine with a small electric boost, while also enabling this Skoda to coast with the engine completely disengaged at speed on the highway, improving efficiency and reducing CO2 emissions. You'll be wanting the WLTP efficiency figures, which will quote for the hatch body style. It's hardly any different for the estate. For the 1.5 litre E-Tech mild hybrid petrol engine we're trying here, you're looking at up to 112 grams per kilometre of CO2 and around 57 mpg on the combined cycle in both forms. For comparison, the unelectrified manual gearbox 1.5 TSI 116 PS model manages up to 118 grams per kilometre and up to 54.3 mpg. It's instructive to compare those stats to those of the alternative 2-litre TDI diesel engine, which manages up to 66.2 mpg and 112 grams per kilometre in manual 116 PS form, or up to 63.2 mpg and up to 117 grams per kilometre in its 150 PS DSG Auto guise. For completion, we'll tell you that the 2-litre TSI 265 PS turbo petrol unit of the top VRS variants records bests of up to 40.8 mpg and 158 grams per kilometre. As for servicing, well, as usual with Skoda models, there's a choice of either fixed or flexible maintenance packages. You'll choose the fixed approach if you cover less than 10,000 miles a year, and with this, the car will typically be looked at every 12 months. If your daily commute is more than 25 miles and your Octavia will regularly be driven on longer distance journeys, you'll be able to work with a flexible regime that in the first 2 years of ownership could see you travelling up to 20,000 miles or waiting up to 24 months before a garage visit. A single inspection service every year or 20,000 miles will be required thereafter, whichever comes sooner. Insurance groups for mainstream models range between 14E and 21E. And warranties? Well, the standard package is 3 years and 60,000 miles. We can't see why Skoda couldn't extend that mileage limit to 100,000, since that's what you get with a mechanically very similar Volkswagen Caddy Life model. Doing that, though, wouldn't give Skoda dealers so much of an opportunity to sell extended warranty packages. You might, of course, feel that no extra cover is really necessary. After all, the brand regularly tops independent consumer satisfaction surveys. According to real people, there are few more satisfying cars to own. The Octavia name, based on the Latin for 8, is an almost inseparable part of Skoda's history, dating all the way back to 1959, when it arrived to designate the 8th design produced by the Czech brand following World War II. In modern era guise, Octavias have sold prolifically enough, if placed end-to-end, to fill all 3 lanes of the complete M25. But many of those sales, of course, date back to a time when this was a slightly smaller and much less sophisticated car. Here's a version of this Skoda that's quite a lot more expensive and sophisticated, though it continues to offer an awful lot of metal for the money when you take into account the extra cabin space you get compared to virtually all this model's family hatchback segment competitors. Be that as it may, the Czech manufacturer knows the kinds of people it's aiming at here and no longer wants to serve them as a value brand. That market will be left to the Chinese. Instead, this manufacturer wants a higher quality image developed alongside higher quality products. Cars like this usefully improved version of the 4th generation design. The company looks forward to an era where the purchase of something like an Octavia is viewed not as a cheaper choice, but instead as rather a clever one. That time may already have arrived.